out of our non-public session to our regular session at 6:03 p.m. I'd like to remind everybody this evening to speak loudly because our camera is a little further away than normal. So just to be sure that people out in video land can hear us all. And we'll begin with our salute to the flag, which is pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, in liberty and justice for all.
Meeting postings. Colleen.
Yes, sir.
Postings posted everywhere as postings required.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
And I do believe we made the public thing with the civics.
Did we get the Civics Plus going? Fantastic. Good to hear. So members of the public should now be able to get our meeting notifications along with the public packet through the city's Civics Plus posting system, email system.
They have to subscribe to it, yeah.
I got to tell you as well.
Well, you guys are all subscribed because you're on the board, so.
Fantastic. Moving on to public participation. Do we have any members of the public who would like to rise to speak this evening?
Ed Breedy, City Councilor.
Yeah, come on up to the front.
You want me up here?
So we can hear your voice on our microphone.
Hi there.
Thank you.
Gotta have fun, gotta have humor. I have a hard time hearing everyone out here, so anyone along here, speak a little louder. That's comment number one. Comment number two, thank you for having it when it's not on a city council night. Because this is the first school board meeting that I've been able to attend. And I'm begging you to maybe adjust your schedule so it doesn't fall on the city council meetings or the workshop meetings, so I can attend, so I can keep my constituents aware of what you guys are doing, okay? And not everyone wants to do your job, just like not everyone wants to do mine, but that's a story for another day. So, talking amongst yourselves and try to adjust, because there are other city councilors that want to make your meeting to anticipate in what you're doing.
We asked you to state your name and your ward just for the record, please.
I did.
You did.
You said city council, I didn't catch the word, sorry.
Ed Preedy, City Councilor, Ward 3,
Thank
a
you.
good ward. So, and that's all that, but thank you for having this, and you would need AC maybe.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Anybody else? All right, seeing none, we will move on to agenda item number 5, recognitions.
So I'd love to recognize Danny Sylvester, our Athletic Director of the Year. I don't see him in the room. He told me he would be here, but he was named the Division IV Athletic Director of the Year. So a nice Those of you who don't know Danny, he's been instrumental for the last, 10, 12 years, keeping our sports programs robust and going. And he's been spearheading the high school renovation project. And I just can't tell you how wonderful that high school gym looks. We had our first event in there with the volleyball this homecoming Saturday. The high school girls volleyball team won 3-0 against Sunapee. It was packed. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. The parents that were there coming out of there were just thrilled with what that looked like. So it's all because of Danny. So I'll make sure that he knows that we all recognized him tonight.
Thank you, Dan. Any other recognitions this evening? Jeff?
For those that don't know, one of our administrators was nominated for the Masonic Lodge number 60 Community Builder Award, and Jewel Finley received that award yesterday in a special ceremony. It's the Community Builder Award for the Masonic Lodge number 60.
to agenda item number 6, our Franklin High School Student Representative Report with Zoe Nagel.
As is typical of September, students have been very busy at each school in our district, and here are some of the most important events so far. Last week, the high school's annual homecoming celebration took place. The senior class took victory in the homecoming competitions, which was announced at the dance last Friday. Thankfully, the weather was on our side on Friday night, and the dance was held outside on the lower field, accompanied by a lovely bonfire, as is tradition in Franklin. On Saturday, our varsity volleyball team and football teams won their respective homecoming games. If you haven't attended a sports game this fall, I highly recommend going to one before the season is out. Our athletes are very incredible at what they do. In other news, the theater groups at the high school and at the middle school are officially active. The FHS Players is holding audition for Alan Menken's musical rendition of The Christmas Carol this week. And tonight, as we speak, the middle school's theater program is holding a parent information night to spread news about their upcoming production of Shrek the Musical Junior. Rehearsals will start very soon, and the show will be held at the middle school in February. If you know anyone at the middle school who may be interested, I would highly recommend telling them about the opportunities being in the show could bring. That is all, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. On to agenda item number 7, approval of prior board minutes. We have 3 different sets of minutes for approval tonight. I'd like to start with the public minutes for August 26, 2024. Could we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Leanne, and we have a second.
Second.
Second by Jane. Any discussion?
I have 3 corrections that I gave to Colleen. One was on page 5, one page 7, and one page 8. They were very minor things, but did need correcting.
Thank you, Deb. Anyone else? Jack?
Item number 5, Adam Heath said the FMS track coach, but I believe he's the FMS football coach. That's what he came for us. He may also be the track coach as well.
Oh, he's football.
Adam Heath talked about, it says track coach in there, it should say football coach.
Oh, you know what? He's the football coach, yeah.
Yeah.
He was talking about tracking, but I was,
Yeah.
Thank you.
thank you.
Actually, we should say assistant
Yep.
football coach. Yeah, he's an assistant, yeah.
Anyone else? All in favor of approving those minutes as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes, thank you. Now for non-public minutes for August 26, 2024, which began at 5:37 p.m.
I'll make a motion to approve minutes of 8:26, 5:37 p.m. and to keep them sealed.
Thank you, Deb. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Michael. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions? Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve and keep sealed the minutes of 8:45 p.m. of 8/26/24.
Thank you, Deb. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Liz. Any discussion?
Lee.
Was that Leanne? Sorry.
Yes.
Just throwing her voice a little.
Never sit those two next to each other.
All right, no discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, on to agenda item number 8, 2023 Franklin High School Youth Risk Behavior Survey presentation by Barbara Slayton, our Office of School Wellness Coordinator. And we will need to exit the stage and join the audience as the presentation will be projected on the screen.
We'll let you guys go.
We're high tech here. It's the precision, yeah. We got, it can't be shaky. I guess I can stand up here, actually. Is it projecting now? It's on. It's on. You're at the table.
There you go.
Nice. Well
Perfect.
done. Well done, sir. Well done.
You want me to sit back there with it?
No, it can be here because I'm casting. I just, I didn't know where the. Okay. Hope I can cast. It's working.
There you go.
Turn this on. I need to cast. Hopefully. So cross our fingers. That is not casting the screen, is it? Does anybody have any casting magic? Is Zoe still in the room?
Yeah.
I mean,
It comes by room. Oh.
okay, so I know how to do that.
All you have to do is walk up there.
You're amazing. So I should start with cast screen first?
Yes.
Okay.
And then go and press your cafeteria. Oh.
You're awesome. There she is. Slideshow. Okay, there it is. Thank you, Zoe. For those of you who I haven't met before, and there are a few new school board members since all of us haven't had to come to all of the school board meetings, my name is Barbara Slayton. I've been the coordinator of school wellness since 2017. And this survey is administered every 2 years. I also want to introduce Stephanie Wolf. She's a coordinator for Franklin Partners in Prevention. Much of this work that we do together, especially around the substance use prevention, but really all of it, is a very collaborative process. So Stephanie's here to answer any questions that you have. I'm gonna be presenting this to the entire staff tomorrow as part of our suicide prevention training. And then this will all be available on the school website. In your school board packets for the school board members, you should have received this presentation, which is called the short version. A presentation that our epidemiologists from Franklin Partners in Prevention put together when we thought we had more than a few minutes. So that has more deeper analysis. And there's also a 100-page document that will be made available, you have all gotten, but also available. All of this material will be on the school website after you've seen it tonight. We wanted you to see it before it goes out publicly so you know what people are going to be seeing. But this tonight is just meant to be sort of a high-level overview of some of the trends that we're seeing, so we pulled up what we thought was some of the most important data. For those of you not familiar, the Youth Risk Behavior Survey is administered by the CDC every 2 years. It's the only survey in the state of New Hampshire that public school students can take without opt-in parental permission. So this is really our best source of data about what's going on with our kids. We have data dating back to 2013 and before, so when we're looking at some of the trends here, we can see what's been happening for over 10 years. And we can also try to make connections between what's helping, what might not be helping, and where we might need to pour in more efforts. It addresses all of these areas. We're not gonna talk in depth about sexual behavior or diet and physical activity. And I'm not joking when I say there are at least 6 or 7 questions about whether or not you wear a helmet and how you bicycle. So we're gonna skip over those, and the yellow categories are the ones that we're going to focus on tonight. 65% of our students took the YRBS survey. Those who didn't were either absent, their parents might have said, I don't want my student to take the survey. Actually, I think we had 1 student in the entire high school whose parents opted them out. And then at any point, students could look at the survey and say, nope, not doing it. They could look at the survey and say, I'm gonna do it, but I'm not comfortable answering that question. So it was very much youth-driven, and parents could opt their students out, but as I said, only 1 did. When we look at the regional comparisons, you're gonna see on most of these graphs, you'll see Franklin numbers, you'll see Winnipesaukee region numbers, you'll see state numbers, and on a few of them, I grabbed the national numbers. And here are some of the school districts that are in the Winnipesaukee Public Health region. So when we're comparing to our neighbor school districts, this is who we're talking about. So here are the areas that we're gonna focus on tonight. And while, as I said, while we're not focusing on all of them, if you wanna dive deeper into any of this, if you wanna talk to myself or to Stephanie about what any of this data means, reach out at any time. Happy to have further conversations. I already mentioned the note. The left-hand side will have a scale, but the scale is not always the same. So it might look like 50% on one graph, and it might look like, 7% on another graph. So just be aware of that you're not comparing apples to apples. You can't put these charts side by side. A fun thing that the YRBS does occasionally is changes the way they ask questions, which means that it might be getting similar information, but you can't compare 2021 data to this data because they didn't ask the question in the exact same way. So for some of those, we can't do the trend analysis. For example, they stopped entirely asking the question if you have ever lived in a home where a parent or significant caregiver has been incarcerated. They didn't ask that at all this year. We did the 2023 Youth Risk Behavior Survey in grades 6 through 8, funded by and analyzed by the Franklin Partners in Prevention. We presented that to the Safety Committee last spring. And that will also be made available on the website. So we'll start with basic needs, because if you've ever heard me talk, basic needs are kind of the foundation of everything. And here are just some of the questions we pulled out. On the left is the percentage of students who have experienced unstable housing during the 30 days before the survey. This is not a huge number. This is about 5 percentage points, but it's over twice the region and our state. The arrows here, which you'll see on most of them, I don't know how to make that thing go red. This means that it's trending in an upward direction. The arrows going sideways means it's generally stable, and if you see a down arrow like this, as it relates to hunger, that means it's trending downward for us. So I wanted you to see, in some cases, the state and the region might be moving in a stable direction or going down. We might be going up, or vice versa. The middle is percentage of students who always or most of the time went hungry because there was not enough food in their home in the past 30 days. That percentage is actually going down. That's a bright spot.
Barbara,
Yeah.
can I ask?
Yeah,
Do you want them to ask questions as you
Yeah, go ahead.
or at the end?
Now,
Okay, I don't have a question, I just want to know if you can ask. So if you have a question, board members, if you have questions, you can ask as you go.
yeah, anytime. So that number is going down. Percentage of students who have ever slept away because they've been kicked out, abandoned, ran away, that number is increasing, and as you can see, that's a concerning number for us here in Franklin as well. Also, keep in mind, 2021 was the last time the survey was administered. When we did it that year, it was the fall of 2021, so that was, kids had just come back from a hybrid year. So when we're looking at has it risen or decreased since 2021, that's what we're talking about, is just post the hybrid COVID year. Did you have a question, Chuck?
No, I was seeing if it was percentage or number of students, it's percentage.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
It's a percentage. These are all percentages, and I'm sorry, the scale on the side is, this is 8%, 4%, 0%. I think I made them bigger on the next ones. We're talking, oh, I love the way that does that. Basic needs, adults at home, and coercion. This is asking about, the 2 questions on the left are asking about adults at home who have either had substance use or had mental illness. Some of these questions that you're gonna see are what's called ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and those are predictors of some negative life outcomes later on. The two questions on the right are percentage of students who have ever been given money, a place to stay, food, or something else of value in exchange for sex, and percent of students who have ever been forced to do something illegal by someone who got money or something of value for what they did. So the third question, that's the first time they've asked that question. And the scale on the side here goes up to 60%, 40, 20, and 0.
Is this the exact wording of the questions? I'm just wondering if it's like had ever or like currently. Is this like a ever in
So
your life question?
That's an excellent question. This is the way they summarize it in the analysis. If you dig into that 100-page thing, I think you read it 2 years ago. It says this is the exact wording of the question. This is a summary of the question because there might be like things to choose from, and it's like once or twice, 3 or 4 times, and so then that would make that ever. When you see the words ever or current, ever means ever, and current means past 30 days.
Thank you.
So this is who has ever lived with someone who is depressed, mentally ill, or suicidal. And you'll see that more in the substance use questions. They do a lot of current use versus ever. This is I need to reformat this for tomorrow, don't I? Substance use for alcohol. Percentage of students, again, the scale is on the left, 25% is the top, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, and 0. The left-hand question is percentage of students who drove a car or other vehicle when they had been drinking alcohol among students who had driven a car or other vehicle during the past 30 days. Almost 10% of our students have done that.
Is that limited to only students?
Who have a car.
Okay.
So of the students who are driving, almost 10% of them have driven under the influence of alcohol
Thanks.
in the past 30 days.
Yeah, I got it.
Percentage of students who have had their first drink of alcohol before 13 years, other than a few sips. They ask this question for this and some of the other substances because they know that first use under the age of 13 is an indicator for future substance use problems. Current use, this is current use of alcohol. This is some good news. Since 2013, all the region, the state, and Franklin have all decreased by about 10% in the past 10 years. So use overall, or current use in the past 30 days has gone down. Percentage of students who have had 4 or more drinks, this is binge drinking in the past 30 days. We're pretty similar to the region and the state. Their numbers are stable, ours are going up. This is tobacco. I did not put arrows on these because they were all over the map, but smoking cigarettes has essentially ceased. Most of our kids are not smoking cigarettes anymore. That data was actually suppressed. We have like too few to count. However, and use of vapes is also trending downward since 2019 here in Franklin and everywhere. So I was able to make some global statements about vaping and tobacco use. And 56% of our students who use tobacco have tried to quit at least once in the past year. So what we were seeing between 2017 and 2019 especially was vapes were new, everyone was trying it, or people thought everyone was trying it. We saw a spike in use. Now what we're seeing more of is kids who are truly addicted and want to quit. So we have initiation again before 13 years old. Current use is in the past 30 days. The current use for tobacco is either vaping or smoking. This is current use vape and frequent use vape. Current use vape is, have you vaped in the past 30 days? Frequent use, have you done it on more than 20 days? So have you vaped at least once on 20 out of 30 days? Slow me down, I was told I only had a few minutes. Marijuana and prescription medication, we have a few concerning numbers here. Current use of marijuana, the scale goes up to 30%, so 30% of our students have used marijuana 1 or more times in the past 30 days, and that's increasing while the numbers across the state and region are stabilizing. Ever used synthetic marijuana, that would be K2, spice, fake weed, black mamba. Ever took a prescription that wasn't prescribed to you, our numbers are stabilizing but still higher than the state. Ever took a prescription, percentage current use of a prescription that wasn't prescribed to you is the last one. Not up here, but over 12, over 12% reported first marijuana use before 13 years old, compared to 6.2% for the region. So again, we have students starting younger, which is a challenge for us because most of the substance use prevention programs want you to work with kids ages 12 and up, so we need to find a way to push down younger. Current misuse of prescription rose from 6.7% in 2021 to 11.5% in 2023. This is substance use other drugs. Trend data is not available because many of these drugs they asked about for the first time. Current use of cocaine, the scale on the left goes up to 15%. Current use of cocaine, we've had about 6 or 7% of our students use cocaine in the past 30 days. Inhalants is very concerning, and we saw the same trend in the middle school data, actually, 6th graders. Many of them had tried inhalants before. Inhalants is ever use, so that's, have you ever done this? Heroin is again over 5% ever used meth, and ever used ecstasy is on the far right. The ecstasy increased from 3.4% to 7.3% over the past 2 years. It looks better on the screen, doesn't it?
I know. I'm gonna read this. All right,
Yes.
so perception of harm. Before I dive into this, the reason that the YRBS really captures this is a huge indicator for prevention in the prevention field of use in a community. When a community has a low perception of harm of a specific substance or behavior, they're more likely to do that substance or behavior. So that's why these questions are included on the survey. So approximately 70% of the students believe that their parents would disapprove of alcohol consumption consistent with the region and state. Half of these students think their friends would approve, while only 10% of students would approve of the behavior of their own friends, which is really interesting. So that says the perception is that students believe that their peers are more approving of them using alcohol. However, they are less approving when looking outward towards their friends. It is covered, but it says 61% of students do not believe that there is a great risk of harm in taking prescription drugs not intended for them. This is particularly concerning given the amount of lethal fentanyl that is found in counterfeit prescriptions. The DEA has reported about 70% of counterfeit prescription drugs on the streets contain a lethal dose of fentanyl. So this is an area that is of concern to us. Yet 77.8% believe that it would be wrong for them to do so. So they know it's wrong, but not necessarily, I guess, why. 12.7% of students think it would be easy for them to get a prescription drug without a doctor. That is up from 7.6 in 2021, so just under double that.
Back to the data, this number is also concerning. The scale on the left-hand side goes up to 40%, 30%, 20, 10, and 0. This is the percent of students who were offered, sold, or given an illegal drug on school property during the past 12 months. This has doubled from 17 to 33%. My math is not, spot on, but close to doubled in the past 2 years. That might, at first I was thinking, you know what, in 2021, of course they weren't because everybody had been home, but the number is stable for the region and the state. It's going up in Franklin. And the rate has doubled, completely doubled since 2017. Okay. These were some hard numbers for me to look at as well. They ask about, have you been sexually assaulted? In a number of different ways, they ask the same question. Have you ever physically forced to have sexual intercourse when you didn't want to? That rose from 9.4% to 17.1%. Have you ever been in a forced sexual act? So that could be something besides intercourse. Rose from 10.3% to 17.0%. Females are four times more likely to report this than their male peers. And the final one is the first time they asked this question, percentage of students who reported someone did sexual things to them when they did not want to on one or more times through non-physical coercion during the 12 months before the survey. So that was not physical coercion, that might be, I'm gonna tell everybody your secrets, I'm going to hurt your family, threats, shaming, any other kind of behavior. Dating violence within relationships. So these questions were asked of people who were in a romantic dating relationship. So this only reflects those who are actually in a dating relationship. Of those in a dating relationship, the scale goes up to 50% on the left-hand side. Percentage of students who experience physical dating violence one or more times in the past 12 months is about 20%. Percent of students who reported someone they were going with, this is again control or emotional coercion. Over 40% reported that had happened to them. And the question on the right was asked for the first time was, have you ever physically tried to control or hurt someone? And we don't have trench data, but I think it was around 11% of our students said, yes, I've tried to do that to somebody else.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Physical violence?
Yep.
Does that include sexual violence?
I think that they separated those out. I'd have to look at how they exactly asked the questions, but I don't think there's necessarily an overlap. Physical violence, so that would be, I think it's slapping, kicking, hitting, so it describes what the behaviors are. More females reported experiencing sexual violence than males. Males reported more incidents of physical violence. So on the previous slide where I had said females were way more likely to have experienced the sexual violence, males are saying that they have experienced physical violence at higher rates in a dating relationship. And these numbers are significantly on the rise. Overall reported physical violence has risen from 12.1% in 2019, 12.1% to 19.1% in the last 2 years. Safety, weapons, and there was another, bullying, or violence in the neighborhood. I know what I'm doing tonight. Percentage, scale on the side goes up to 40%. The percentage of students who carried a weapon on school property, such as a gun, knife, or club on at least one day during the past 30 days. That, I believe, is between 6 and 7%. So that's a high number for us. That's going up across the state and the region. Percentages of students who didn't attend school because they didn't feel safe on the way to or from school. That's a high number, which is not out of line with the final question, which is, I think, the most concerning. Percent of students who ever saw someone get physically attacked, beaten, stabbed, or shot in their neighborhood. That's not about school, that's their neighborhood. 34%. And that is up significantly since the prior administration. This survey, I want to just, because everybody here is from Franklin, you know what's happened in Franklin in the past couple of years. This survey was taken before there was a double homicide and the incident on Bow Street that had the fire and the who was involved shooting. So that doesn't account for any of those people who witnessed that and who might have not witnessed something else. I just want to go back to this. Safety is a big underpinning, and it's our responsibility at school to provide for that, but there's a lot of room for improvement and collaboration in creating safe environments everywhere. This is about bullying and teasing. Bullying at schools on the left, the scale goes up to 50%. Percent who are ever bullied on school within the past 12 months. That's a little over 40%. Percent electronically bullied is a little bit more in line with the region and the state, and that number is stabilizing. The final question hasn't been asked before, but they were asked percent of students who have been the victim of teasing, name calling, because someone thought they were gay, lesbian, or bisexual during the last 12 months. Mental health and suicide-related behaviors. Again, I didn't put the arrows on here. For everything across the region and state, there was a general stable or downward trend, and with the exception of whether or not an attempt was made, the rest of the indicators went up in Franklin. So the questions kind of go from severity, sad or hopeless in the past year, to suicidal ideation, which means have you been thinking about suicide? Have you made a plan? Have you made an attempt? And if you made an attempt, did it require a doctor's care or some sort of medical attention? The amount that required medical attention has that showed the most dramatic increase. Females are at higher risk than males across all indicators. For 6th to 8th graders, I didn't marry all of the information, but I think it's important to know for 6th to 8th graders, 35.5% have thought about suicide, 30.7% have made a plan, and 16.6% have made an attempt. This is 6th to 8th graders we're talking about. This is high school students. This is 6th to 8th graders. Protective factors. I wanted to end on this relatively positive note for us at the school here. I want to go back because I'm going to go no, I'm not. The one on the left, the scale goes up to 100%, so this high numbers in the middle are slightly over 75%. Percentage of students who strongly agree that in their community they feel like they matter to people. That is less than about 33% and on the decrease. So they're asking in your entire community. They're not talking about school. They're like, in the community of Franklin, do you feel like you matter? 33% said that yes, they feel like they matter. One of the best protective factors for all of these negative outcomes that we're talking about is having one trusted adult that you feel like you can go to outside of your family. That's the one that's over 75%. Could identify one trusted adult outside of their family that they could go to for support. And on the right, the percent of students who believe that students help decide what happens in their school. So that, again, is about 75%, which is higher than our neighbors in the region and is on the increase. This is our school motto for the year. Is that the right word? Mm-hmm. Motto. For the year, we're all working on handling hard better, and we need everybody's help to do that. Questions? Go ahead, John.
What was your sample size?
65% of the students, I think it was, whatever, 279, 65% of 279.
Did you have a question too?
I did.
Yeah.
Being a city councilor,
Yep.
if I ask the mayor and the manager, city manager, could you bring this to our attention on the city council board-wide?
Absolutely.
Because we need to see this, they need to see it, I
Yep.
need to see it.
Yep.
I don't know, I'm just one person, I will ask, and
Yep.
if I can get a business card from you, so we
Yep.
can set it up with that, I'll let you communicate with them.
Absolutely.
Strongly, I would love to see this come from the city council.
Yep.
In a workshop setting,
Mhm.
to where this is the only thing that we talk about and work it, so something can be done,
Yep.
period.
I would love to, and I could do this presentation, or like I said, they asked 100 questions. These are the ones we pulled out. So we could also tailor something.
No, I would,
This one.
probably won't happen until some later in the year, but I would gladly push for it. But
Okay.
I need something like a business card or something.
Absolutely.
A data, so that I can bring it to everyone's attention.
Typically, we do the presentation here for the school board, and then we do it wherever anybody wants us to do it, so.
Right, well, these people here are at ground zero,
Yep.
Yeah.
so this is where the rubber meets the road.
Right, right, and like I ended on this slide because I think we're doing some things well with the school in terms of making kids feel like they matter, and making sure that they have a safe place to land and they have trusted adults around them, but we can't do it all. We can't make them feel like they matter in their community, so we need to look at that question, like where's that coming from?
Can I ask,
Yeah.
in your expert opinions, some of these I feel, maybe home-based,
Mhm.
environmental.
Yep.
From an SAU standpoint, right, what are the biggest levers we can pull? I mean, obviously, the trusted adult thing that matters to the community, I think is critical. What are some other things we can do to make an impact?
I think anytime we can pull the community in, anytime we can partner with parents on things, anytime that we can get parents involved, and when I say parents, we have a lot of grandparents raising kids, we have a lot of kids in foster care, when I say parents, I mean the adults who are raising these children. But the more we can engage them as our community partners and coming into the school, I think a lot of parents have had, in many communities like this where you see numbers like this, it's an intergenerational, is poverty maybe, or struggles that the family's having, or maybe a parent isn't feeling connected with the school because they had a bad relationship with the school. So anything that we can reach our hands out to do to the community and say, come in, or we'll come to you, but any supports that we can provide. We also partner very closely with our community partners like Health First, Riverbend, Archways, Partners in Prevention. So we really take a collaborative approach, but specifically what the school can do. I think the more education we can provide, the more support we can provide. We're not a social service agency, but we have, a food pantry in our middle school. They store food there so they can easily get it out to the students so they have things to eat on the weekends. So, we're not a mental health agency, but we facilitate therapy happening by having a provider room here at the high school where a therapist can see their client here so the parents don't have to drive them and take time off from work. So those are some of the ways that we try to do that. Excuse me? Ed?
Do you ever involve NAMI in any of
Yep.
this for the suicide prevention?
Yes, yep.
There's actually a suicide prevention peer-to-peer training that they do. So they'll come in, or I think there's a person here who's been trained to give that training to students so that they can then go and talk to their peers about suicide prevention.
You'll let me know if you have any problems on that, because I have volunteered for them and I've knowledge of them.
Perfect,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, they are one of our partners as well.
Yeah.
Other questions? I know it's hard information to hear. It was not fun for me to be swimming in this data either. So I'm trying to hold on to the hope. The other thing this data does is it tells us kind of where we're at and where we should focus our attention. The fact that our kids are using substances and trying them earlier than many of their peers across the region and the state, that tells us that we need to focus younger. The fact that kids don't necessarily think it's wrong for them to take prescription drugs, that nothing bad would happen, that's a message that we can then push out. So while the information is hard to hear and hard to kind of take in, it gives us a roadmap and a direction. But again, I think my biggest message is that we can do this, the school board can help, teachers can help, but it really takes the entire community to address problems like this. We cannot fix, the housing situation. We can't fix the domestic violence that children might be witnessing in their home. We can't. That's not our table.
Yeah.
Do you have grandparents that are from another generation that can't believe their kids would be involved?
Sometimes,
with-
yeah. We in working with, I think, whether or not it's a grandparent or a parent, a lot of times, and I can say this because I am a parent and I have a teenager, I have blinders on. I'm a little different because I know, like, when the school calls me, I'm like, well, what did he do? What, you're only giving him that consequence? Come down harder on him. So I'm one of those parents. But a lot of parents don't want to believe that their child has done certain things. And nobody does.
With suicide?
Yep.
When they say they're thinking about it, believe it?
Yep.
Some people might think that they're just,
Right.
saying it because.
Trying to get
they're
attention
trying to
or-
get
yep.
attention or whatever,
Yep.
but if anybody's saying it, that
Yep.
is a concern.
Yes, and that's another way that we're responsive. We have a protocol within the school district. So if somebody expresses suicide ideation, even if I read a bunch of them today because I was catching up on things. It might be as simple as, if I have to go back to that class, I'm gonna kill myself. If I hate that, I'd rather kill myself than sit next to that boy in class. We pull that kid, they talk to a counselor, they're not left alone until they do. The conversation might be really short, like, I shouldn't have used those words, but we have a trained counselor making that screening decision, so that we're re-educating too, because we know, hey, are you aware that, 36% of your classmates have made a plan so it might not, you might not be feeling this way, but we need to find another way to express it. So this information helps us to come up with protocols and procedures to do that, so we can support all of our students. Would you say that most of the students here at the high school are aware of that process?
Yes,
Okay.
but I also feel like there are negative connotations that come with the process, so could you suggest ways to make it so students think that having feelings like that are okay and acceptable?
Yes, yeah, and that's usually what happens is, it usually goes one of three ways. You know, the student comes in and says, oh, I didn't mean it at all, and then the counselor will say, well, it's okay if you did, we can talk about that. Or it's, well, I kind of feel that way, I do feel depressed that sometimes, but I would never do that. And then there's the supportive counseling around that. And then there's those who really are struggling, and it is a cry for help. But yes, if you have some ideas or thoughts, or if any students do as well, I know that Stephanie works with Mrs. Smith in one of the classes as well. But yes, if you have, would love to hear those thoughts and ideas.
Absolutely.
Thank you for bringing that up.
I'm sorry, I have one more question. Do you find that this cell phone, which is like a mini computer in my hand, which I don't know how to operate, I have a tough time turning it on, but do you find that this vehicle here, for information, for the teenagers, require, they're not stupid, they're smart, and they go onto this thing here, and then they go onto some site that tells them how to commit suicide?
Yep, yep.
Do you find that at all, and when you're trying to talk to the children, this is where they found it out? This is where.
I haven't heard a lot of that. I
I'm
don't
just
like,
curious.
I don't like that, I know that those are out there. I know that those sites are out there. I haven't heard that coming out a lot in the conversations that are happening with counselors. Fortunately, there's a lot of other problems with cell phones, but that's not the biggest one. Thank you.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Colleen, can you make sure that Ed has my contact information? Oh, hi back there, sorry.
All right, thank you very much. On to agenda item number 9, our financial report from Business Administrator Jefferson Berman.
Okay, so I uploaded financial reports to the board folder. However, a lot of it is very preliminary. These were created back in the middle of September, but are not really close to being indicative of where we are looking at things for the year, especially on the expenditure side. One thing to note, part of our budget process and being created to get that budget down below the tax cap, we had several staff members that were having, primarily teachers, their first 3 payrolls paid out of grants. So what that does is all of their salary and benefit costs are reflected in those grants until that period ends. These are grants that are ending at the end of September. So right now, once we move back this current, like say next week when we start doing now the 4th payroll for teachers, their funding source for the balance of the school year will be their salaries and benefits will be moved into that location. So those financial statements that I generate now over the next few months will be more reflective of where things are sitting at this particular time. Obviously, as you have seen, we do have a lot of changes going on with hiring of new people here and there. We've actually had some people also leaving, so it's very volatile. So school year, but I expect by the time the next board meeting on, well, we have to discuss that meeting date anyways, but whenever that is, the financial statements at that time will be a little bit more reflective of how things are trending financially. We did clean up the last year's school year now. I submitted the DOE 25, which is the required financial report to the Department of Education. It has been approved. I had mentioned at the last meeting where we were as far as fund balance. I think I had projected at that time, a lot of cleanup was about $53,000 short of the fund balance estimate that I had projected for the budget, which was a lot better than what we were at in the early spring, where we were possibly looking at, especially with the volatility of special education, potentially a $500,000 deficit in that location. So to get it down to 53% or $53,000 was much better. We finally landed at about $68,000 under my projection for the fund balance, which is very manageable. We've been working with the current year budget and finding areas to save, so we can work within that small amount of difference, and it won't significantly affect our operations for the school year. But as we know, especially with special education, the volatility is very high as we discuss whether or not someone's going out of district or in district or however else, where we're trying to save monies and so forth. But so many things can change over the school year, so we won't know perfectly how that will work out. But the DOE 25 is the financial report. I put the whole worksheet in there because there's several tabs into it, so I just wanted to see really all the information that the state requires us to submit to them. I send the copy to them, to the DOE, to the Department of Education. They review it and let me know if there's anything that's of concern to them, or if there's information that they need, or they have to move anything around. But they've came back, says fully approved, so they have their copy. The Department of Revenue Administration also has their copy, which is one of the tabs of this workbook, called the MS-25. The city side and town sides have their MS's forms too, MS-9 or MS-4 or whatever else, to reflect their financial status. So ours is called the MS-25, which is just a shortened version of the DOE 25. It's about 5 pages long, whereas the DOE 25 is about 21 pages, 22 pages long. So with that said, they do require the school board to sign off on it. I have both cover sheets, one for the MS-25 and one for the DOE 25. So I will need to pass these around to have all the school board members sign off on it so that I can submit these copies to the Department of Education and to the Revenue Administration. We can take care of that tonight. And that's about all I had as far as the financial information tonight. Is there anybody that had any questions about anything? All right. And if you, I'll leave that whole workbook in there if you want to delve deeper into the numbers, or you're bored and need something to help you fall asleep. One new component this year was they actually want things broken down. This is the federal, because a lot of this information is also driven by federal requirements, so that the federal government can provide trending data as far as schools throughout the state and the country. So they wanted it broken down, expenditures to each school. So like what Paul Smith's school's total cost was, what the middle school's total cost was. Also broken down even further, like the salaries at each school, things of that nature. So it gets more lengthy every year. They keep adding new levels of information that they're looking for us to analyze and give to them, but it's purely informational, so that they can use that for comparison purposes with other schools throughout the state or throughout the country. But as anything comes out of a lot of these regulations, it just keeps adding more things to our plate.
All right, thank you very much. No questions for Jefferson? All right, moving on to agenda item number 10, committee reports. Deb, do you have a report tonight?
We had a finance committee meeting on September 12th. We reviewed and approved the minutes of August 7th. Treasurer's report was presented, and there was no questions on that. He did report, as well as Jefferson, that all of our checking accounts, we had 3 of them, combined into one. Let's see, we had our regular expenditure report, which you've seen in the drive, and the items that Jefferson just spoke about to do with the grants and the funding and the fund balance. We also reviewed those prior to this meeting. We had an update on buildings and grounds items, about the gymnasium, the updates on the windows that are being finished up this month. We talked about CIP considerations for future. We talked about the hiring and the shortages in the different areas. We reviewed the two policies. One was for DGD, for credit cards, and DID, which is fixed assets and inventories. I have reached out to Vince Rivas as the liaison for the Joint Finance Committee to see when we might be able to start those meetings back up again. Next meeting is October 24th, which is Thursday at 5:30.
Thank you, Deb. Jack, do you have one?
Nothing to report.
Liz, do you have a committee report?
I do, I have a policy committee report. We met on Tuesday, September 17th at 4:30, and during that time, we were able to go over the final spring legislative updates. The second to last one is going for first read tonight. We still have one more that we're just working with finance, as Deb mentioned. So one last thing to kind of iron out, so that'll be next month, we'll finish that up. And so we were able to begin our chronological review of all of our policies, so basically starting back from the latest reviews, so back to 2017, just to keep everything at least 5 years in review. And so we reviewed a number of them. Any that are changed are in our folder for first look tonight. Oh, and we're meeting on the 15th at 4:30.
Thank you much. Anybody else? We had an Innovation and Improvement Committee meeting on September 9th. We went through school improvement plan results or updates, and we have a file in the drive tonight under improvement plan updated outcomes with some interesting data from all 3 of the schools. We had our strategic plan quarterly update, and I went through the whole plan, and there should be, all the updates should be live on the SAU website under the strategic plan document. We reviewed the teacher evaluation plan, which is on our agenda tonight under superintendent's update. And we had a communications update, and I didn't know when our next meeting is. You have a
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Oh, it's just in a couple of days.
2 days.
I can't look past tomorrow. So Wednesday the 3rd, we have our next Innovation Improvement Committee meeting, and we lined up to have our special education discussion.
Yeah, and it's actually Wednesday the 2nd.
Wednesday the 2nd.
Yeah.
So we're discussing our special education department with our director, Rebecca Butt, and we discussed the impacts on our budget, and we're trying to begin a process to analyze what we're doing in our special education department, which is now over 30% of our district budget, and looking at ways that we can address the needs of our students while trying to lessen the impact on our budget. So anybody is interested to come, we also do a Zoom for that meeting, and the Zoom link is always on the agenda, posted on the SAU website. And now we'll move on to agenda item number 11, new business with the superintendent's update, and we're gonna move item number 9 from that up to first for Dan tonight, so we can.
Yes, if we can start with the emergency management plan approvals. I have assistant principal from the middle school, Vicki Shipman, with us. She spearheads every fall, putting together the 4 plans that we need. Each school has its own plan, Paul Smith, Franklin Middle School, and Franklin High School, and then a district plan as well. So she comes to us, we have to submit these plans to Homeland Security, I believe,
Yes.
Vicki, right? by October 15th. And she has some signatures she needs to get as well. Vicki, do you want to say anything about the plans?
There weren't any changes that were required from last year's plans, so we didn't need to make any changes. We did not make any changes. We had added the sporting event, what's it called? Action plan, last year, but other than that, we haven't made any changes, so all I need is updated signatures. The copies you guys had emailed to you have last year's signature pages, but those will get updated.
I'll make a motion to approve the emergency management plan for each of the 3 schools in the district.
Thank you, Deb. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jack. Any discussion?
There's just some formatting things that were in there that is simple, that we just gotta take a look at, so I have that information, so. Some lettering were off on there.
Yeah, no, the formatting is miserable because the
Yeah.
states, everything is sent to us in Word, and I don't have Word, so I have to have it in Adobe and try changing it. It is not, that's why I was gonna change some of the sheets and put blanks in. I was like, you know what, that's gonna take me too long. I'll just change it all at once because it does not play nice.
So we'll fix it. Good.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Anybody else? All right, seeing none, all in favor of approving the plans as presented? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And the emergency management plans are approved.
Thank you very much, Vicki, for all your work on it.
Okey-doke.
Appreciate it. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Okay, Franklin has the gym renovation update. So, as I was saying earlier, we're almost there. We have the basketball hoops left to go up. They're supposed to go up in the next 2 weeks. We have cages coming in to cover up the brand new scoreboards to protect them. And then once those 2 things are done, we have new chairs coming in for the teams to sit in. Those should be in within the next 4 or 5 weeks, hopefully before the basketball season starts. If you have not seen it, you gotta see it, it's amazing. Kids are thrilled, parents who've seen it are thrilled. I showed the 2 gentlemen setting up for voting today, I took them up there, they wanted to see it, and they were floored, they couldn't believe it, so. It's all good, it's just really a nice addition, and to have the kids playing in their own school after 30 years, I can't tell you, that's priceless, like the commercial. Beyond their home school is great, so, everything's looking great. Should be finished by basketball season, so. Any questions about that? All right, tonight I have 2 nominations for you. I would like to nominate Paul Landau, middle school special education teacher, and Deborah Kerr, 4th grade teacher at the middle school as well.
I make a motion to approve Paul Landau, special education teacher, and Deborah Kerr, 4th grade teacher at Franklin Middle School, as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Deb and Jane. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? And they are accepted.
Great. Some good news on the financial front. We submitted a federal grant, the Targeted Violence Prevention Grant, and we have received $486,000 over the next 2 years. That will fund a climate specialist at the middle school, like we have put together here at the high school a few years back, which has made a big impact. It will fund half of our Barbara Slayton's salary over the next 2 years, Office of School Wellness. It will provide training programs for our teachers, so we're very thrilled about that. So I just need the board to approve those funds, so we can send them over to the city and have the city do the same next month.
I'll make a motion to accept the Target Violence Prevention Grant funds in the amount of some number that Dan has. $486,000 over the next 2 years.
Thank you, Liz.
Second.
Second by Deb. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you very much. I would also like the board to approve a $7,500 robotics grant that we received from the Department of Education.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Jack, seconded by Lori. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Beautiful, thank you. The negotiations team has come to an agreement with the custodial union for a 2-year contract. Deb is the chair of that. I don't know, Deb, if you want to speak to that, you want me to? or-
No, go ahead,
Yeah.
you're on a roll.
So that has been unanimously approved by the custodial union. It's a 2-year contract. First year costs are $37,478, and the second year increase in cost is $33,681. And there were also some language changes that were in the board drive for you to review. What I'm looking for is for the board to approve this so that we can then send it over to the city council, and then hopefully in November, the city council will take this up and approve that as well. For a
Make a
2-year
motion.
contract. Go ahead, Jane.
I'll make a motion, we accept the Franklin custodial contract approval.
Second.
Thank you, Jane, seconded by Deb. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And abstentions? The custodial contract is approved.
Fantastic. I'd also like to thank Jane Cody and Delaney, who served on that committee as well. All right, the DOE 25, MS 25 is all taken care of. Jefferson took care of that. I want to talk briefly about substitute nurse pay. We have a substitute nurse who's an RN who used to work here, who is now substituting for us. We've never had this luxury. What I would like the board to approve is paying this substitute RN $150 a day when our nurses are out, so we can have full coverage. The money comes out of the substitute line that we have budgeted. Right now, we pay our teachers subs $100 a day. So $150 a day for a substitute RN is a steal by all measures. So I just need the board to approve that.
I'll make a motion to approve the substitute nurses paid $150 a day.
Thank you, Deb, seconded by Marie. Any discussion?
I have just a quick question. Is this one school, all 3 schools? Would you vote depending on?
I believe it's all 3 schools. I'm gonna try and convince her it should be all 3 schools. She
Okay.
used to work here, so it's been for here
Okay.
at the beginning. But, yeah, covering all 3 schools would be the best. So I'm gonna say, hey, the board approved it, but they really want it to be all 3 schools.
Jack?
Are nurses in the teachers' collective bargaining agreement? They're not covered under that?
Yeah, they're in the
Support
support
staff.
staff.
Support staff?
Yeah.
Okay. So is there any conflicting language regarding this change?
Not for a substitute.
Okay.
Thank you, Jack. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And abstentions? And motion carries.
Fantastic, all right, we're on a roll. All right, Portrait of a Graduate, our Portrait of a Graduate program through the Bar Foundation. We have a trip to New Orleans coming up, beginning of November 2nd through the 5th. Chris is here to talk a little bit about that as well. We have the high school principal, Carissa, we have 4 teachers, our 4 instructional lead teachers, 3 students, 4 students. We're hoping for 4, right?
4 students accompanied by their parents.
4 students accompanied by their parents, but the exciting thing about this one is that we're actually presenting at the national conference, all the work that's been done here at the high school. So I gotta emphasize that to you, presenting at a national conference is pretty cool. But because it's an overnight out-of-state field trip, I need good students, I need the board to approve. So I would ask you to bless them and wish them a great trip in November.
I make a motion to approve the Portrait of a Graduate trip to New Orleans as described.
Second.
Camp New England was with us 2 years ago, in the summertime for 2 weeks over at the middle school. They come into communities and do community service projects. We had a wonderful experience with them 2 years ago. They stayed in the middle school for 2 weeks, and they went all over the city, in the local communities, and did all kinds of projects for needy residents. They had such a great time, they reached out to me again and asked if they could come again this summer. And I said, I would love to have you come this summer. Let me bring it to the board like I did the last time. There's some information in the board folder about them and the work that they do. They were very well received in the community last time. We partnered with the city to make sure that we identify needy residents that would benefit from their services. So I'm coming to you to ask for your blessing once again for them to come to the middle school. We do not have the 2-week date set yet for the summer school. For the summer programming. But I just wanted to put it on your radar. I can wait for approval if you'd like to get dates aligned, or if you want to give me preliminary approval, that's okay too. However you'd like to proceed.
What do we have for potential conflict with summer school and just?
Last year they coexisted, and they had, 2 years ago when they were here, they coexisted. So we had summer school going on, and we had the program going on, and we had just had separated them and had different parts of the building available, and they actually were great. You know, kids got to see them in action, so it's not a conflict no matter when we schedule it. We showed that last time when we did it, but I can certainly understand if you want specifics around dates and stuff before you actually do it. So really up to you guys to decide how you want to proceed. They have to finalize their scheduling and whatnot before they give me the actual 2-week windows.
Anybody have thoughts?
I think it's a great program. So I'd say we look forward to it. I make a motion that we, partner with Work Camp New England summer program for the summer 2025. Second.
Thank you, Lori and Deb. Any other discussion? Dan, is there any financial impact on the school district?
No, they actually, they provide all their own food, they cook their own food, they actually fed our staff, custodians loved it. It was really a nice collaborative, so there really is no financial impact, other than just being in our buildings for 2 weeks. The lights are on because the custodians work that time anyways, and there is no financial impact. They do everything on their own.
Yeah, they clean up after themselves.
Yeah, I mean,
There is no custodial impact either,
and they do this all over New England, like I said, so they're pretty well known, so. And I'm just happy they want to come back, because certainly we could use that in our community, for sure, so.
Alright, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Work Camp New England summer program is approved.
Thank you very much. I'll keep you posted on dates. Okay, Carissa's also with us tonight because she facilitated this summer some work between the administration and the teachers union to update and improve our teacher evaluation plan. That teacher evaluation plan was worked on collaboratively with teachers and the administration. Chris, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about it before we ask for the board's blessing.
The process was collaborative, so we had teachers from the union represent and administrators look at the old document and then think about changes that they'd like to make. We went through it line by line. So we've divided it into sort of 3 sections: professional growth, which is required, and then which is required of the state, right, for recertification, then evaluation, which is part of the administrative roles, and then the last part is assistance if teachers need it in their professional practice. So there's sort of 3 tiers there. It was pretty collaborative. We went back and forth with the rubric language. Told everyone, don't wordsmith because rubrics are always changing, so we'll look at it again after teachers and administrators use it for the year to make any tweaks to that rubric language. But it was a really collaborative process, and I think it's a pretty good, clean document.
From my point of view, it moves us forward to help us better support our teachers, especially our newer teachers that have come to us potentially outside of the field of education, that we talked a little bit about here at the table. So it's a better plan to support the staff that we currently have, for sure, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to look at it this summer, so.
What are the, like, highest level main differences? Because I like the structure of it now, but what are the big differences?
The biggest difference from my point of view is that all teachers will now go through the formal evaluation process and formal observation process. We had removed that a few years ago and went to more of a walkthrough type of process. What we found is that although, and we still have the unannounced walkthrough process is still in there, so we still have that part. But sitting and making teachers go through the clinical part of doing an observation and a post-conference is still very valuable. So we got that back in there so we can help support some of the teachers that we think would benefit from that. I don't want to use the word old-fashioned, but that way of working with teachers.
That actually came from the teachers as well.
Yeah, and it came from the teachers as well. They agreed that they thought that clinical process would be beneficial for them. So, to me, that's the big one. I don't know, Carissa, you can speak to it, but.
For me, I think that just bringing the professional growth into it as intentional and aligning the professional growth with the rubrics at the end, so the evaluation process isn't separate from teachers' professional growth goals. So all the language is aligned throughout their whole professional growth cycle.
Yeah, definitely.
How will this new process need to be aligned with the CBA when it comes up for negotiations again?
Our process is outside the CBA.
Okay.
We've always worked this outside the CBA, and I would not want us to include it in the CBA.
Okay.
So,
'Cause I was just questioning in 6.3, it says that they would be given their report one day before their conference. Is that a reasonable time frame, just one day before, for them to get that information?
yeah, all 6.3 speaks to is they are able to review any written report
Mhm.
before they're asked to sit with an administrator and discuss the report.
Right, but I'm thinking one day, is that a reasonable amount of time for them to have that opportunity to do that?
Yes, and I think it reads as a minimum, right? So if I'm an administrator and I give Jewel, the teacher, I give her a report and say, I want to schedule a post-conference with you, I have to give her the report 24 hours, at a minimum 24 hours in advance.
Yeah, it doesn't say minimum.
Yeah,
so-
but that's how it's been interpreted.
Okay.
So I don't think it's gonna, we're gonna run
Affect
into
it.
issues with that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If we need a motion to approve the teacher evaluation plan.
So moved.
Thank you, Deb. Second by Lori. Any further discussion?
6.8 of the contract says teachers who are on a continuing contract shall be evaluated every 3 years. In the current process, I think I understand it. It says educators 6 years and beyond, doesn't matter, they're not gonna get evaluated every year.
They're gonna get observed, but they only get full evaluations every 3 years like the contracts.
Yeah.
Right. So
So-
everybody, so we can observe people in any way we want, but they get a they get a summative evaluation every
Yes.
every 3 years. That's what the contract speaks to.
All right, so, okay, I understand. So this is, on the page of the presentation says observation cycles, years 6 and beyond. It references in the third bullet point, a summative evaluation, and then it says, one sentence later, evaluations will be delivered to teachers by March 31st. So that's referring to the summative
That's referring to
evaluation
the
that was
summative.
referenced before?
Yes.
Okay, understood.
Does that make sense?
It does now.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
next one is your school board goals. So you had a very nice retreat in August. Chris helped facilitate that retreat. So the minutes from that, the notes, I should say, from that meeting were in the board folder for your review. And then Carissa put together kind of a forward-facing goals document for you guys to consider tonight. To kind of capture, we hope, the 3 goals that you discussed throughout that meeting. Chris, I don't know if you want to speak to this at all?
Only that your goals that you set for yourselves and talked about, those 3 groups that you decided naturally aligned with the strategic plan. So yay, you're all aligned in your thinking and philosophy. So they're color-coded and aligned with the 3 goals: student goal, goals for students, educators, and then community. And I think they reflect what you all talked about. In the board packet, it's a pulled PDF, but you all actually have the live document with all of your notes, all of that. That's a running document that you can look at. So you can see that, and then we've just honed the goals there for you. And I made you a graphic. I think Liz asked me to make a graphic, and I can edit it if you don't like the way that came out.
Yeah, were you able to find out my question?
Yeah, Deb, that PDF was pulled before September 12th, because on September 12th, Dan and I met to refine all the pieces, so that language was just pulled right out. The live document that you have access to, that you all have access to from that day, is the running document of the notes.
So that last sentence was full?
Yeah.
That helped.
Yeah, it just kind of went off to nowhere.
Yeah. It was a working document, so.
All right, has everybody had a chance to review the school board goals document?
Make a motion to approve them as presented.
Thank you, Deb, seconded by Jane. Anybody have any discussion?
Just want to thank Carissa for the work in doing this and putting it together. I think that's a fantastic presentation and a way to display and capture all the discussions that we had at that lengthy meeting, but produced a lot of work. So thank you.
Yep, it's great. It's fun.
Yeah, I do appreciate that as well, and the alignment to the strategic plan. Could we kind of wrap this right into our strategic plan, maybe?
As soon as you approve it, we can talk about the next step.
As another, yeah, so it's all in one spot, and it's all nicely encapsulated. Thank you. Any comments on the content here before we vote to accept? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? And that passes, and thank you all, and thank you, Carissa.
So let's talk
self-identify and make sure people know that we are school board members and trying to be more publicly visible and available.
In the interest of safety, if you do lose that badge, please report to Dan as quick as possible, so we can make sure that nobody else gets in hold of that. Thank you.
So in terms of, oh, go ahead, Billy.
I was just gonna ask, is that considered the identification at these events, that we're wearing a badge?
Yes, we had talked about some other identifying features, maybe more.
I think we talked about the hats with those little spinning wheels.
Or just pictures of us at the events.
Or pictures of you at the events.
So, I mean, in terms of rollout, now that you have approved this, you know, we need to get this out there in public, you know, tie it into the strategic plan. It is a great idea. So I'm just thinking we could bring this to I2 on Wednesday and have I2 talk about how do we get this out now into the public, and have public media aware of the work the board's doing, the goals the board has. If that makes sense, then we'll do it as an item and do the Wednesday I2.
I like it.
Connected to the strategic plan as well, so. All right, if that makes sense to you.
Onward and upward.
Onward and upward. All right, next up, October meeting date. So I will be at a Portrait of a Graduate convening in Boston on October 28th. It's a 3-day thing that a bunch of us are going to. So we're gonna have to reschedule the 28th school board meeting date.
30th?
Sorry, whatever the date was. Let me just bring it up. 28th. Right now, it's scheduled for the 28th, but I won't be able to be here, unless you wanna meet without me, which I don't recommend.
When do you get back?
I come back on Halloween, the 31st, I'm back on Thursday. The other thing is, I wanna talk to you about is, we do have a need to have a special training meeting on our focus on humanity with the portrait work with James McKim. And I'm hoping to do that on October 17th. He's looking for about an hour and a half with the board to do some work that we're doing. He wants to work with the board because we're doing some work in the district that's focused on humanity that will impact students and parents and staff for sure. So I guess my first question is, can we schedule a work session with James McKim on October 17th at 6 o'clock? How many of you would be able to be available to do that first? Wow, that's great.
Any chance we could do it at 5:30, a little bit early?
I can ask him. He originally had said 6 o'clock, but I'm gonna see him tomorrow morning, so I'll ask him.
The reason I'm asking is because we have not reviewed the NHSBA resolutions.
We
and
need to do that night.
We need to do that night too,
Right.
because our meeting is on that Saturday.
So what we can do is, we could do James, the work with James, if we can do 5:30, would be great, and then we'll do the one item of the NHSBA resolutions, which I'll get out to you guys in advance. So we could do that on the 17th. Then the question,
And we could
You wanna
flip
do
the
those
agenda
first?
too if you
Yeah.
can't do it until 6 o'clock, so.
We can do 5:30 to 6 for the resolutions.
well, we could do that first, if that works for everybody. We'll
If
do
they
him,
can meet,
yeah,
yeah.
and we'll just keep him at 6,
Yeah, that would
if you
work.
wanna do it that way. That works.
Here?
And that will be here, yeah, we'll do it right here. It'll be in the other room, it'll be here, but, yeah.
5:30?
Yeah, 5:30 on the 17th, so we'll do the NHSBA resolutions, and then we'll do, and it doesn't need to be televised, this is just a work session, so. And then we'll do the work with James, which would be great. Now the question is, when do we wanna do the October regular board meeting?
The 21st. Oh, just curious.
When is the city council doing their meeting this month? Because it's not gonna be,
I'm assuming the city council meeting is on the 7th.
That is
That's the
correct.
regular council meeting, right?
And do you know if there are any workshops scheduled for the 21st?
There is one on the 28th. I'm sorry, my knees are killing me here. On the 28th is a workshop for us.
Webinars is good, so
So,
21st would not be in
if you did it on
21st.
21st,
It's a Monday.
I'll bring your brother's donuts.
Well,
And don't tell me everyone's on a Nutrisystem diet. I got some humor out of you tonight.
21st, good for
Not for me, but that's fine.
You're okay, Doug?
Yeah, 'cause I have my regular, my board meeting.
Leanne, no?
So you said the 21st?
We're still working on it.
Sorry,
Anybody else?
I can be here. I can be here.
Yeah, how about hands up? So we can be here? So-
Seven.
All right, so we got one, we have 7. All right.
All right, so
Do we
we'll
need a
go.
motion or anything? We can just reschedule?
Consensus.
Yeah, consensus is fine, we'll get the word out there as soon as. All right, so we'll go with October 21st, and we'll go with October 17th, like we talked about, and then I am all set.
All right. All updated. Alrighty. Thank you very much, Dan. And we are on to agenda item number 11, policy. For first reads tonight, we have DID, inventory and management of assets, ABA, volunteer involvement, ACE, procedural safeguards, AD, philosophy of the school district.
Make a motion to approve the first reads as read.
Second.
Deb, second by Leanne. Any discussion?
Hold on a second. What are they?
What?
Oh.
Let's do first.
Okay, thank you.
So you have another month to read them.
Yes. I did, I didn't have them in front of me, I didn't know which ones we were referring to.
So any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? First reads are approved. Second reads, we have JKAA, BGAA, FAA, JFABE, JRA, KEE, IMGB.
I will make a motion to approve as stated.
Thank you, Leanne.
Second.
Second by Jane. Any discussion on second reads?
If I have a recommendation, you want me to get to the policy committee?
This is second reads. If we have any changes you want to make, then they need to be made now.
just a typo.
Yeah, I mean, we covered it in one of the other policies that we're presenting anyway, so it's minor, so, as long as that policy passes, then we can do it, so, we're not there yet.
What policy was it?
BGAA,
If we pass that
Oh.
one tonight, then you can.
Right? Yeah. So, yeah, so we need to pass it, and then we can take care of the small.
exactly,
type of things.
exactly,
You can call your friend Liz.
yes.
You know you're gonna be on the policy committee next time. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, I'm doing all these anyway.
Oh, geez.
Thanks, Deb.
Hey, anyone else? All right, all in favor of second reads, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And abstentions? Second reads are accepted. Thank you. Agenda item number 12, late items or other. Dan, do we have any late items?
No late items.
And agenda item number 13, our second public participation. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak at this time?
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing none, do we have need for a second non-public session, Dan?
Very brief. We have one item. Sorry, I forgot one.
We need a motion to go into non-public.
I make a motion to go into non-public under
Yes.
Michael Lombardo,
Yes.